That being said, though, we were pleasantly surprised with how Nova navigated this early game, because leading into this series, we did kind of say this is a team that are essentially the PCS's version of the Afrika Freaks, where they will stomp teams that are beneath 5th, and then just get horribly dismantled by anyone above them in the standings. It was competitive, even if it was a bit of a heartbreaker, and now Nova looking to actually close this one out if they find themselves in a similar position to last game.
I do see rather similar bans, though, coming out, as Nova have selected to opt on blue side once more, as it is the loser's choice when it comes to the second and third games of our best of threes, meaning we are going to see the Twisted Fate, the Thresh, as well as the Ashe being banned out, and PSG, they remain the same. Get rid of that set, get rid of the Kalista, get rid of the Caitlyn, and flex pick Lucian walked in immediately for Nova.
Yeah, pocket picks just trimmed out across the board, and yet we go back to this somewhat successful Lucian pick for Rocky. He gave Hanabi a solid run for his money early, and he also did kind of transition into the mid game fairly well. Kind of sad for him is the fact that largely the catalyst to a lot of Nova's plays were just Rocky being caught, but hey, it's life, and Hanabi actually more than willing to opt back into that matchup, seeing as the fact that this Renekton Nidalee duo did take down the Lucian pretty early on.
I swear, are we just going to have the same composition? Is Nova going to just draft the exact same thing along PSG, and then we watch them do nothing again after 25 minutes? Is that what's happening? Because it might be happening, Abriz.
Right, so the thing is that it worked out for Nova theoretically. They just needed to close a little bit more early. If you lock in GB here, it's fine, but it does mean Lucian's going mid, or potentially bot, probably mid. Oh, and it's literally the same as last game. But yeah, I like the Lucian this early because you can flex it mid and kind of make Zoe, make Syndra, make Orianna especially a lot less appealing for tank, because G4 could just wreck their faces with the Lucian pick.
We'll see here now. Instead, we might opt into a Senna as that last pickup for PSG in their first round of picks, and instead of waiting for the Varus and the rest of the AD carries to be banned out, they themselves are the ones that take a different course of action when it comes to this draft.
And so the thing I do really like about this PSG draft is that if they round it out with something like a Corki or Echo or another proficient side laner, you can run a nice 1-3-1 and then just threaten the global Senna ultimate to reinforce your solo laners, or have the Nidalee just rotate around the map super fast.
All right, see here though. Bans coming on through. They say, all right, we really want to see whether or not you're going to try and run that Lucian back into top lane. They do know the matchup being a Renekton, so just trying to limit some of the options and try and kind of force that flex into a lane on the side of PSG, getting rid of that Ezreal as well as the Aphelios. Tank, though, not going to have his Azir.
Yeah, and the issue with playing blue side is that, yeah, while you do get first pick and, you know, access to a lot of these flexes, you lose a lot of the mystery behind said flexes once you do show your entire hand.
All right, interesting to see here, though. It is going to be the Kench being banned out on the side of Nova, and then opting to go ahead and lock in the Nautilus here for Kaiwing, having some heavy engaged the fact that his Thresh has been eliminated from this draft.
So I actually do like the fact we see the Kench band out here now, because it does mean that we could see like 4-man dives onto the Senna fairly early. A quick Pantheon ultimate, you know,
it's
Pantheon should kill it. Oh my god.
It's actually happening. Is this the secret? Are you just kind of like slamming your head against the wall? Because I feel like that's the plan here for Nova.
And now with better recall timings and more aggressive power plays as Tahm Kench is out of the game.
See, that was the secret. It was the Kench that was the issue all along. Instead, now they have a Senna and Nautilus that are going to play a screen away in most cases.
Yep, seems to be the case here. And PSG, I'm pretty intrigued as to how the spot lane will go, because yes, while they did find a very solid 2v2 in the previous game, you can find yourself very susceptible to being dove, to being ganked, to being actually killed, especially not only on the Senna, who's quite immobile, but the Nautilus, who is quite squishy and renowned for, you know, if he dies twice in the early game, he's going to die 5 times by the mid game.
All right, so a little bit of a change up here at the very least for PSG. They're not, you know, pulling the Nova here. They're just drafting the same composition and driving us insane and let us maul away. Instead, they're the ones that say, all right, you know what? We'll have a backup option. We'll have that Corki that once he hits 3 to 4 items, he'll be able to burst any of these squishy members on Nova and then take full control of the game.
So I actually called this earlier on in the draft when we saw the fact that Senna was locked in alongside this top side of PSG. And as we mentioned, it lets you play 1-3-1 and then have that global threat of the Dawning Shadow combined with a Nidalee that does rotate incredibly quickly. It also gives a little bit of wave clear and has a very, very solidly scaling matchup into the Orianna, spiking very heavily on every item bought.
Well, for Nova Esports, if they want to avoid a 2-0, a complete copy of what they saw back in spring playoffs to the hand of PSG Talon, they need to win here to force a Game 3 and try and take that back over PSG Talon. We'll see whether or not PSG are going to give them that opportunity as we load on to the red for our second game of the series.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn.
And back again for Nova Esports. A little bit of deja vu, you could say, the very least. Hey, Ryan at least changed up the skin at this point, all right? That might be the secret. That might be the key to success here for Nova to actually pull off this composition correctly. Which we harp on them not being proactive, but the early game we cannot discredit looked very clean from them.
Oh, God bless. All we needed was Spirit Blossom Lilia here. Yeah,
and
wow.
then you got
Beautiful.
High Noon Lucian. It's the animations, all right, Abriz? The animation difference. It works, trust me.
Honestly, I think Ryan had like the best start possible in the previous game
did.
and was fairly impactful for the early stages of it. Now without a spoon-fed kill, or assist rather, and without the momentum taking away from River's early game, I'm a little bit apprehensive as to how the jungler of Nova actually starts to transition himself into a bit of a lead in this game.
We're seeing here it's going to be a blue side start on the side of River. Not going to get too crazy, it seems, here. We do see at least Ryan going to his red to his Krugs, so looking pretty standard here. For PSG, though, we kind of mentioned, you know, last time around, it felt like Nova was able to get them a little bit into that kooky style that we saw earlier. The bot lane actually wasn't doing too bad. What do you expect out of PSG in this early game?
So from PSG, I do expect the bot lane to be given a solid run for their money. By the way, High Noon Senna to match High Noon Lucian. Beautiful. But yeah, just think about the fact that you are really just scaling towards a solid 1-3-1. You need Renekton to get big early. You need to get him out of that pretty hellish lane state before Ninja Tabi as well. Like we saw in the previous game. Look at his CS numbers. It's kind of gross. And just keeping Ryan away from getting on the board early will make this Lilia pretty useless come the mid to late.
You see, though, Ryan not afraid to start bouncing into the jungle of River. River's just going to back off. He does not wish to deal with this deer, but might be looking for a play here. Mid lane actually going to get some priority. Instead, actually going to go for this 1v1. Dark Harvest going to be propped. They go over the wall themselves. G4 going to roam up for a little bit of support, forcing River to reconsider whether or not he wants to continue to challenge for this red buff.
Yeah, Nidalee's early clear just that little bit faster than Lilia's, but Lilia's dueling is much better unless the Nidalee gets a max range spear and gets to open up freely. As a result of that, you see Ryan moving in aggressively, you have that Lucian that's consistently pushing top for priority as well, and suddenly Nova off to a fantastic start yet again in this second game.
There we go, we're still seeing the good trends that we expected out of Ryan at the very least, so hopefully we can see them materialize into a similar playstyle, a similar path to success that we saw in the early game of Game 1. As Tank himself, again, you thought Azir Orianna is a farm lane. This is pretty much the other version of that farm lane as much as you can possibly have.
Yeah, essentially, I guess the only way it could have been more so would be if Tank started with a Cull, but speaking of farm lanes, top lane might be one for Rocky if he can continue to grow his lead. Just having Ryan shadow him in case Hanabi tries to break this freeze aggressively. Yeah, solid. Does mean the top lane of PSG now going to be in a little bit of a rough position.
So we'll see now for Hanabi himself. Opts to go back, picks up Cloth as well as a Rejuve Bead for at least trying to survive the early game, you could say, up against Rocky. We'll see whether or not he's going to be able to get any support. We did see at least River apply pressure toward the top side of the map, but they just weren't able to completely shut down Rocky, which kind of allowed that Lucian to just take control back in game 1. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of River, actually, not really pathing into any lanes, and I think it's fair to say there isn't many options for him to actually go for, considering you have like a Senna bot lane with a Nautilus.
I mean, the cat has had her claws clipped, and the crocodile essentially has a rubber band on his mouth.
Okay.
You know how, like, crocodiles, they have the tension strength to close it really fast, but can't open the jaw if you put, like, a band over it? No.
See, I'm used to the lobsters having that on their claws in most cases. But we don't really have
essentially the same thing.
Champion. We don't really have a lobster champion. Yes, we do. Top lane, though, Hanabi, getting rather aggressive, looking for a chippy chomp. Instead, Rocky is going to play extremely safe, burning his flash. A lot of respect being shown there up in this top lane in the solo lane.
I mean, it's essentially what happened to him in the previous game when he did give a kill back to PSG. Just flash Renekton empowered W into Nidalee Spear from max distance into one very dead Lucian. Rocky credits him, soaked that gank fairly majestically, but it does mean he has to be a little bit more apprehensive about how mindless he is in his constant shoving.
There you go. Look what Tank got on his most recent back. He's got that tier and he's got that call. He never wishes to fight anybody for the next 25 minutes of this game.
Yeah, pretty much name of the game here. Happy to scale. As we mentioned, the Corki spikes pretty heavily on every single item purchased. Orianna very much the same. And despite Corki not having the team fight winning power play of a Shockwave, can still solo carry if allowed to free cast.
Well, I guess this kind of comes back to and gives us a little bit of an opportunity, because we always mention that PSG, they've been kind of known as this team, very similar to Machi, to wait out for that first 15 minutes. Soak up as much pressure, even when they have River on something like a Nidalee that wants to maybe try and get up in your face. And how that's going to translate if this team actually represents the region at the international stage come Worlds.
Yeah, definitely do need to see PSG kind of up the tempo in their playstyle, like the time we saw these two teams clash back in Week 6, where they would just take firm control of the early game and close that one out pretty beautifully. But so far this series, unimpressed with PSG in the way they're executing against the team that they should be stomping for all intents and purposes.
So I'm interested on your thoughts here, though. We got to see first component backs, and we're actually seeing a BF sword picked up by Rocky on his first back instead of opting into the Bork.
So that's the Essence Reaver build coming through for the Lucian. I guess it's just for the additional mana to stay in lane, a little bit of cooler trading. You could go IE, but I don't think that is the play here. And honestly, it doesn't change much in the way this lane is playing out. Ninja Tabi was such a big threshold for Hanabi to reach that I think the PSG top lane is in a pretty okay position. River may not be, though.
River gonna get drowsied. In comes the bonk from Ryan, and there you go. First blood once again coming out from Nova on Ryan with the Lilia.
Yeah, very, very clean pickup there onto the jungler of PSG. He knew he was spotted out and he knew to get out of there, but Lilia from behind, the gank, the collapse. Really stunning play from Ryan there, already on the board, and off to a pretty good start here that we said this champion really needed.
Looking very similar to what we saw during the first game, and also with G4 actually getting such a massive shove in onto Tank allows him to get priority and look for that kind of play. And it's nicely done here on the side of Nova. Ryan has always been kind of this jungler that's able to try and find these kind of plays with his vision control.
And hopefully for Nova, this is where all the similarity towards Game 1 ends. After that Heartbreaker, they're just looking to tag back. Honestly, pleasantly surprised with the fact that they are able to just get themselves back in a winning kind of mentality. Up 1.1k gold at the 8-minute mark, looking to transition that into an early Herald. A lot of pressure across the board. Nova bouncing back in Game 2 of this series.
So again, Nova able to kind of find some of that mental reset that we, like you mentioned, were kind of concerned maybe that would have been a deal breaker after losing in that 45-minute slugfest. And it's kind of good to see. You're starting to see that veteranship come out from multiple members of this squad. And I think that's a good sign. Considering what we saw back in spring, we always felt like there was a little bit of hesitation considering the fact that they were running mixed cross, so a little bit more of a rookie when it came to the scene. And now you're starting to see a little bit of that mental fortitude out of your veterans like G4, like Rocky, as well as Cold and Feet joining the roster.
Super crucial to note is that we actually saw River take this second blue, so Tank needs to force a recall here in order to actually kind of get back on the board in terms of relevancy. This should give like a little bit of breathing room for a good rotation towards the Drake for Nova. Wait, G4 didn't actually manage to last hit the blue.
That's tragic.
That is unlucky.
Very tragic. He is going at least Lost Chapter at the very least, so not end of the world, and looks like he's going to go back to base anyway to likely, I don't know, we might see the tier pick up from him, who knows. Nonetheless,
Kinda sucks.
Yeah, kind of feels bad. But PSG, they find an opening here, realizing that the Rift Herald was secured by Ryan, rotate down, and find themselves their first Drake of the game.
Yeah, this would have been a lot less free had G4 had mana to actually fight this. Tank getting the package did mean the Corki was able to get, like, not a TP's worth of instant lane presence, but fairly close to that. And it does mean the PSG are able to transition that into a fairly clean objective secure.
What I have to say, though, is Rocky unloading is all he can with that culling. Tank also just using his package because the dragon's already taken, so he's not going to use it for anything else himself. Yeah, looks like we're actually going to get that Essence Reaver build coming out from Rocky. Meanwhile, bot lane, though, Ryan looking to set up a play. Pop does know that this is warded, so we'll see whether or not they're going to actually be able to make a play here himself, as Ryan's trying to sneak around, but unfortunately needs to land the seed onto one of these squishy members of PSG.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Nova now to make a proactive play onto this bot lane of PSG. All sums are up though, and with a little bit of a scary kind of threat in the fact that Corki and Nidalee do rotate quite quickly, it does mean committing for a big dive bot is a little bit scary. That being said though, Nova, this Herald is timing out in the pocket of Ryan, so if they're gonna make a proactive power play, it needs to be fairly soon.
Well, you see, Rome coming out from Pop does have his ultimate, G4 similar himself, and you did see that at least one turret plate was taken by G4 earlier during the lane phase. River, as well as Kaiwing, are going to go for the Roam to try and answer this, but it looks like that should be at least 3 plates going over to Nova.
Yeah, fairly good pickup from the Nova 3-man that did rotate into the mid lane. It does give time to solo farm for the side of Cold and Feet and Unified though, so both carries are pretty happy with that.
Wow. Pop might be a little trigger happy there. I like the idea. Unfortunately, no follow-up really close by and wasn't in range for the stun.
Yeah, looking at the inventories across the board, by the way, just note the fact that we do have core mana items completed for both mid laners. They can stay in lane longer, they can farm for longer, just more relevant for the earlier stages of this game. Gonna coordinate a dive here, but Vision is making Hanabi aware that he could very well be in trouble.
And also without Pop having his ultimate, rather hard for them to really do anything, as Hanabi can keep himself safe, like you mentioned, with the ward. And back we go into the excitement of farming lanes for probably another 5 minutes until our next dragon spawn.
Actually, I'm not even sure if that was a ward or a Nidalee trap. I think it was actually a Nidalee trap, so just Hanabi reading that map very, very well, saying, look, G4's out of mid lane, he can only be in one place. And he's probably not base, because we've seen this guy. He is allergic to recalling when it's not for a single full item timer, and as such, the Nova mid laner, well, now he's gone back for his Sorcerer's Shoes and could actually look to pressure out the Corki in the mid lane.
Alright, so maybe we get to see some of that proactiveness from Nova. We're starting to see some items come on. Tension building. Or both of these teams going to farm out, it seems. Which is, it's kind of crucial, because Nova themselves, you're trying to avoid a repeat of what happened back in spring, where they were taken down 2-0 by PSG, and then eliminated in the lower bracket by Hong Kong Attitude, which, again, loser here will go and face, and for PSG, if they're able to win, they get to have that second round matchup once again up against AHQ.
Yeah, it definitely does have a lot of implications for how the rest of our playoffs are going to look. And of course, whoever loses here, gonna have to play immediately again tomorrow.
So that endurance playing key, considering we had ourselves a rather long night, to say the very least. Again, the tech issues that plagued us during our first series put us back an hour or two.
Alpha had a 2-hour-long game 1.
Yeah, that was a long game. Alpha, all right? Me and Riku had that hour-long game 1. I know you got to at least do a little bit more. There's nothing going to really happen out of this ball. Wow, okay, never mind. That's Kaiwing going to try and pop his ultimate. Curtain Call going to be used. Cold Feet, rather risky to try and do that in the face of a Nautilus as they're able to backtrack. I wasn't expecting Kaiwing to pull the trigger, but hey, he wanted to try and make a play happen.
Yeah, not even trying to trade back from the Nova bot lane there, just on full disengage. Once the Senna's creating space, once she's slowed you down, Nautilus is between you and her. Very, very difficult to close the distance again, and does mean Unified just gets to free cast. As a result of that, the bot lane of Nova are sent back, sent to recover, and should lose this bot lane tier 1, as well as a lot of pressure around this Drake. Mid lane, though.
Look at mid lane. They're going to be able to actually get first brick gold over to Rocky and G4 as a nice rotation comes out. PSG a little bit late to the party, and like you mentioned, the Orianna, with a little bit of help from her friends, able to actually pressure out this Corki. Next Dragon, though, is live, and it looks like resets are coming through on toward the side of PSG, opting to go toward the Dragon, and Nova say, all right, we're going to go for the Rift Herald, and maybe look for the exact same play we saw back in Game 1.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal rotation there coming through from the side of Nova, bringing Rocky down. Very decisive call there. And yeah, they come out ahead in the end, even if they do lose the Drake as a result. Could very well see Nova just tag back 4 mountains like we saw in the previous game, or could see them crack open and inhib at maybe a more appropriate time than the 16-minute flash in the pan kind of play we saw in the previous game.
Yeah, we kind of feel like Nova at some point needs to start kind of picking up steam here. As Ryan, he's only gotten the 1 kill. You got Infinity Edge now there for Cold Feet. Rocky's been sitting on this Essence Reaver for the last 4 minutes, but we haven't seen them go any proactive way, and the gold lead, very similar to last game, it's only 1,000 gold lead in favor of Nova at this point.
In Nova's defense, this is a better gold lead than we saw in the previous game, and they are doing a pretty okay job of kind of not necessarily weathering the 12 to 16 minute mark where PSG really start to come online, so much as just matching the inactivity with similar inactivity and matching the proactivity with some proactivity of their own.
Proactivity for some proactivity is pretty much what I'm getting from you. A trade of a trade, it seems here. Would you say, like,
reactionary game?
What we wanted to see from PSG, is this kind of what we expected from their early game? Have they been able to at least fulfill the objectives we set out for them?
I mean, they are more than happy to scale at this point. I don't really know what that Herald was about, but sure, we take those.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Nova definitely do need to start thinking about making the big call, making the big play, making that aggressive kind of bloodthirsty push.
W's gonna land. Pop was nearby with ultimate. Wannabe gets himself back to safety, so that's going to be a 2-turret Rift Herald, very similar to what we saw last game. Not able to pick up, though, that final pickup. And meanwhile, G4, he just gets caught out by Kaiwing. There you go, first kill for PSG. It's off the heels of G4, not paying attention with no vision down.
Yeah, big shutdown going over into pockets of River there, despite being even on farm. I guess the global gold from all the turrets and stuff being funneled into G4's pocket meant the Orianna was fairly hefty when it came to matching up against the Corki individually. Good collapse from Kaiwing, good playmaking from the playmaker of PSG, and now we do start to see PSG on the front foot when it comes to making the big plays.
We kind of mentioned without, actually trying to go for a play, Ryan's been very slowed down. This is very much the play style that PSG excel in when you give them the opportunity to play it. And it kind of goes back to what we mentioned when it comes to Worlds, if this team is to represent the region. I think you're going to have this from local teams here within the PCS, but I don't think, your top teams from the LPL, your top teams from Black are going to even give you an opportunity to try and scale like this.
Yeah, definitely do have to think about the fact that PSG are quite slow-paced. The fact that Machi did drop a game against Alpha early again kind of shows that they're brothers in arms in that slow-paced kind of playstyle they've resigned themselves to. have struggled against lower tier teams, and that could again be the case with PSG here if Nova continue to apply the pressure. Need to not slow down, need to keep up this tempo. Nova, be aggressive and continue to push this into the enemy jungle.
Well, it kind of comes back. We've seen only, what, one Pantheon ultimate so far from Pop, and it was a bit of a whiff, to say the very least. It was a gutsy call, and didn't really pay off into anything. And we've kind of been like, all right, you have the tools to dive, but now, you know, Tank is starting to come online with its burst. You got Gurn Call being popped into the jungle, but there's no follow-up. It's, again, very haphazard between this squad when it comes to who's making the shot calls.
Yeah, definitely do look at that as being kind of zoning out PSG from topside vision, but with no Baron up yet, there's no real play to be made, and in the end it just looks like Nova committing quite a lot for not really anything gained in response.
So now we kind of come back to the situation where at least Nova had more map control back in game one. This time around, though, they've been rather hesitant, and they're not in that optimal setup to try and close out the game in 25 minutes.
Nova right now is sat on some pretty big item spikes. That being said, though, all of these two or even single item spikes are nothing in the face of the Corki Muramana Triforce combination. That is insane, and G4.
G4 once again gets caught out, as that's going to be the kill going on over to Tank. Pops a package as well, and able to dive in. Pop gets taken out, and there you go. PSG, they find themselves quick 2 easy kills. Immediately, eyes onto the Baron.
Yeah, again, PSG do draft a team comp that can take the Baron fairly quickly. Senna, of course, not really your most proficient marksman in that regard, but Corki more than happy to compensate for that one. Ryan has to desperately flash into this pit if he wants to make any kind of case for a steal.
All right, do you believe in the deer to make the play? Rocky getting some decent damage. We'll see if that's going to be the case. Seed lands in, but still not going to be enough damage. Hanabi able to get the stun. Ryan unable to do anything else. Is going to be at least able to get the sleep on to the Renekton. But guess what? Baron is secured for PSG at the cost of only their top lane.
Yeah, excellent zone out coming through from Hanabi there. The Renekton does keep Lilia out of the pit. And while they're calling, saying, look, Lilia's backing off, Lilia's kind of flustered, just burst down the Baron. That is the good play from PSG, the safe play, the safe pickup. And now Nova, yeah, they take what they can get in response, but let's be real, single point Mountain Drake at this stage of the game, it's certainly no Baron buff.
And this is weird, because, like, G4 has an idea that there's a Nautilus nearby. He has, again, that trinket right there. I don't understand why he's pathing through that mid lane.
G4 is
hit him.
Up in the air in terms of...
You're allowed to. I give you full permission, because that's now twice he's been caught out in this game, that otherwise, you know, Nova are the ones that need to be doing stuff on the map, and it doesn't help when your key mid lane, your star mid lane with international experience, that well-known name from Thailand, is getting caught out by just really silly roams.
Right, and we refer to him as the star player of this lineup because he's achieved so much in the course of his career. He's had highs to the point of making insane highlight reel players, even last game, you know, might even go for one this game, but he fumbles so often that it's now par for the course that you expect him to be underwhelming. And yet he's still a star because occasionally he makes that big play that is enough to convince you that Nova maybe actually do have a mid laner worthy of being in the PCS playoffs.
And there you are, PSG able to get themselves pushed here in the bot lane. Get yourself the double sleep possibility for Ryan, but not onto the targets he wants. Another turret taken, and now a actual gold lead in favor of PSG, which is kind of the signs of the end times for Nova when it comes to this composition.
Yeah, Jhin, Orianna, Lilia, Lucian, and even Pantheon to a degree, especially when he isn't building too much by way of health. Any of these champs take a single Corki rocket to the face, take a single Nidalee spear to the face, it's a solid chunk of damage that they are not getting back ahead of the next fight. PSG, they have the comp for sieging, they have split push, they have poke, they have everything going for them right now, and Nova are routed.
And Kaiwing kind of has G4's number, was able to force another flash out of this Orianna, so that's not going to have any safety for himself. And we've already mentioned, you know, he's getting caught out. Kaiwing's actually been able to be the one to lock him down every single time when it comes to these picks. And I kind of feel like right now we're just watching a rather slow bleed out on the side of Nova.
Yeah, definitely looking at Nova as being in a fairly rough position overall. They had a good lead in the mid game, but now they're just kind of rapidly crashing through that mid game to a point where the late game's going to be unsalvageable. Exactly. That being said, though, it's IE Lucian, also Essence Reaver, so they actually do have a fairly, you know, formidable late game carry if he's allowed to actually auto attack. But one Q from the Corki into a Triforce empowered Muramana auto is a solid 2/3 of any member of Nova's health.
There we go. Another reset. Muramana's fully stacked on both carries of PSG as well. QSS also online. Whatever CC you're gonna get onto these carries don't matter a whole lot. I'm really upset with Nova, if you can tell this. I've been a bit disappointed in this series.
The thing about Nova is that when they consolidated the kind of GPL and C teams into the LMS region to make the PCS, it was going to be single swim for some of these organizations that don't necessarily have the super stacked top level of talent. Nova, though, on paper, looked like they could play with the best of the best. They looked like they could make a deep run into playoffs. And there is promise. That's the annoying thing, is that there is promise at times, and it's like this.
Holy hell, there you go. It's going to be Pop diving in, but he gets instantly bursted, and J4 misses another damn shockwave with this Orianna. It's a triple kill for Tank on the Corki. He's online. He does not care at this point. Rocky tries to step forward. Quadra kill for Tank, and the respawn now online for Nova. For the next 40 seconds, it's Ryan left to salvage the situation.
In G4's defense, try pressing Shockwave meaningfully when you have a Corki, a Nautilus, and a Renekton all in your face as a flashless Orianna past the 25-minute mark. Granted, he got it out, it hit nobody, and yet Nova just crumble under the assault PSG put out there. Really good, aggressive play coming through from PSG. They find backline access, they shred what little frontline there is, and that was off of a Nova engage. That was the Pantheon ult into PSG. That was all Nova had in terms of proactivity, and the scary thing is, now Nova are just going to be afraid to commit to any kind of fight, and it's just going to be a slow bleed out from here.
And that's with, like, again, not optimizing for that play, trying to get the ball back onto Pop for when he lands in onto the key members. We didn't see that. G4 had to panic. He tried to use the shockwave. It was nowhere nearby. And like that, PSG now, 5 minutes, they'll have Mountain Soul Point for themselves if they wish to take it. But there is a possibility another good fight in their favor could easily result in the end of this game. Rocky just gets obliterated by Tank, now 6-0-1 on the Corki.
Yeah, 3.5 items for this Corki. Tank is fairly formidable, super huge, and the trial by fire of this new mid laner for PSG, entering playoffs in this region for the first time, and he has played fantastically so far this series.
Looking clean here. We sometimes criticize Tank for being the KDA player, but hard to kind of get killed when you're able to just burst out members like that, and you have that big soaky front line in the form of Nautilus. And we mentioned this draft already takes this Baron rather quick. It is a last-ditch effort on the side of Nova to try and take this one back. A nice root current call was able to land onto 4 targets, but still not enough damage. 3,000 health back onto the Baron. Depth charge is going to go back on over to G4. Hanabi has to back off. It will be the Baron secured by PSG. Can Nova find any kills? Can they get anything for this Baron? The answer appears to be no, because Pop goes Pop himself. And PSG now looking for more.
Yeah, and my hesitation around this Lilia pick is that she's like Trundle. If the enemy team has any kind of setup around an objective, and if she doesn't have Flash, there's no way for her to get in the pit. Nova had no business trying to contest that, and they suffer for it. Now, even late on the rotation to their own base, they could lose the game here.
And there you go. It's going to be the inhibitor taken on the side of PSG. Simple and clean. This game has pretty much been outside of that early aggression from Ryan. We have just not seen any life from Nova. Poor decision-making in multiple areas. And it's just gone to the point where this comp gets outscaled. Tank is able to make you go boom, and easy does it.
I just looked at Hanabi's KDA. Oh man, he's 0-1-1 while everyone else is having a good time. Look, we're spectating this through Tank's point of view, by the way. Special delivery, return to base to pick up the package. Yeah, Porky things. Good poke. You know, chuck out a rocket here and there. Spear comes through from Nidalee. And yeah, it's all doom and gloom for Nova from here on out. As we said, no real business contesting that because Lilia has no way of actually getting into the pit. And yeah, PSG just happy to farm the kills that were funneled towards them.
And they kind of just, at the moment, thumbs up across the board if you're a PSG fan. Unfortunately now, Nova, they have to look at the possibility that they say, all right, we go ahead, we try and make our climb back through the lower bracket. But it's got to be kind of mentally draining when you get eliminated from top side bracket by the exact same team and the exact same seed that you were. And after such a unfortunate game one, I think that's the best way to put it, unfortunate. You're now looking at the possibility that your season might come to an end tomorrow.
Definitely do have to bounce back from that game one. Nova, they looked very proactive in the early stages of this one and then just kind of let it all slip away. They have to change things up ahead of tomorrow. And if we see the same draft again, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be funny, but at the same time, very, very tragic, much like this game.
I think you'll get onto my level here of actual anger and frustration. All right, and I'm the bloody play-by-play. You're supposed to be, you know, the one heavy analyst getting angry at all these bad decision-making. It seems like that is going to be the case here as Pop uses his ultimate. It's a last-ditch effort, but unfortunately, that ditch is going to be Pop's grave. In comes the shockwave. It finds it onto two members, but guess what? It's just too damn late. Hanabi gets dozy, but there you go. Tank on a double kill. Proceeds forward. Wants to find himself a triple. Unified able to take down the kill onto G4, and maybe looking for a dive underneath the fountain. But nonetheless, PSG able to heavy-handedly secure Game 2 and take the series to get a ticket locked into a matchup with HQ on Sunday.
And it wasn't clean, but it was the expected result. 2-0 in favor of PSG. The third seed completely shuts out the sixth as Nova do fall in a much less convincing second game compared to that first one.
It just gets frustrating. It just gets a little bit annoying when we take a look back and we see the exact same draft come out from Nova. We see a promising game one, and then nothing. Just nothing from this team. That happens so frequently. And it's just the one thing that kind of drives me nuts when it comes to this team, this roster, and their play style that we have seen throughout the course of this year.
Yeah, genuinely kind of tragic to see them lull back into this let's sit back and try and do things reactively kind of playstyle. And here it looked promising because they finally pulled the trigger on something. Unfortunately, said something was like the worst fight they could have taken ever. And then everything just kind of split. Tank precasting in the backline, gets a quadra by the end of this one. Also, credit to Tank. Really, really beautiful game from him. I think River might steal. Okay, no, Tank steals MVP. Cool, nice. He earned it anyway. So yeah, pretty happy with the new mid laner of PSG. When do we stop calling him the new mid laner, by the way?
I don't think he's a new mid laner anymore. I think, you know, when he first started 2 weeks there, but now he has that spot under wraps. And he's looking to help get this team to the international stage when it comes to Worlds 2020. And he's going to be able to earn that MVP. The 802 on the Corki. 1 kill away from the Penta. If he can get one at least for our first day of playoffs. But nonetheless, a great performance for PSG in the second game of the series.
Yeah, and speaking of that international performance from PSG, I attribute a lot of this team's up and downs to Tank in particular with his quiet kind of early stages of the game that really do bleed over into the rest of this team's identity.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick interview with Kaiwing alongside a
那这两
translator.
场其实你们前期都在比较劣势的情况下反败为胜的。那例行赛的打线优势啊，好像反倒是在季后赛没有看到。那你们队伍是有出了什么问题吗？
So in the two sets today, you guys started the game poorly. So your laning advantage and your early game pressure that you guys showed so well in the regular season did not show in these two sets. So what happened?
我觉得第一场来说的话，就是我觉得最归咎就是前面我们就是一级经营的时候出现一些比较明显的大失误，所以导致到前期的风向就是在对手手上，所以我们前面就算是有拿到一些前期的英雄，这是我们下路上，但是可惜都拿不了太大优势，就最多我们下路就把对面单杀了一次，之后就也做了一些不太好的决定，所以导致到第一局的游戏很难玩。那第二局的话就是我们中路选了库奇嘛，我们下路选了谢娜了嘛，那这两个比较需要点时间发育的英雄，所以我们前面也不能做太多的事情，所以就变成是看起来我们两场的比赛里面前期都是偏劣势的。
So in the first set, we made some mistake during the first level gank for the jungle, and because we made some more mistake later, we were not able, even though we got some early champions, we were not able to play well in the early game. But in the second set, we got more late game champions, so we were also not able to make advances in the early game. So that's probably why that you think that our two games didn't have that much pressure or laning advantage in the early games.
那第二题想问，就是第一场的这个结局，算是相当令人惊讶。就当下要去 BD 对方家这个扣是谁下，然后当下怎么会做这个决定？
So the ending for the first set was kind of surprising. Who made that backdoor call, and why did you guys make that decision?
因为当时候嘛，我们也没有到很优势，所以我自己觉得当时候我们5v5硬碰的话，没有100%的板2去赢。但是我当时候发现了3号兵线是我们有超级兵嘛，所以兵线是肯定慢慢进去的。然后我猜他们的想法就是想跟我们在聚龙里面5打5嘛，所以我就大概想了一下，然后我就说如果3号兵线进去的话，我们先让他们拿到一个好的位置，这好的在那个聚龙那边的好的位置，然后我就说，如果他们开始推中线，就是如果摸我们的中路高地塔跟开聚龙的话，我们就准备 BD 他们家里了。
So I made that decision because we had the super minions on the top, and I predicted that they're gonna go for the Elder Drake and our mid turret. So I told my teammates that if they're trying to do those two things, I'm gonna BD them, and because of my champion, the ultimate, so I think we're able to do that. That's why we made that decision.
好的，那下一场比赛你们要面对上的是 AHQ 嘛？那你们有什么就是调整的策略嘛？因为跟春季季后赛看起来又是同样的戏嘛。
So you're going to be facing AHQ next, and based on your performance at the moment, it seems a little bit worrisome. So did you guys prepare anything to fight against them?
如果要我说的话，如果用我们今天的表现去面对现在比较强的启 Q 的话，这基本上是临时开，所以希望启 Q 他们能够高抬贵手，就是不要虐我们这么长。但是同时呢，我们会肯定好好今天做一个深度的检讨，就是让我们跟启 Q 的差距变小一点吧。
So based on today's performance, I feel like they're going to win us 10 heads in the early game. So I just hope that they don't punish us too much, and we're going to go back and review our performance and make a lot of changes before that game.
好的，当然也恭喜凯文拿下这场比赛的胜利，也谢谢翻译，也感谢凯文接受我们的访问。我感觉今天那个。
So there you go. That's why he got the MVP, all right? You're wondering, you know what? It was his decision. He had the idea. He made the backdoor call. So, again, congratulations to them. And, again, even a bit hesitant when regarding to AHQ, as they'll have a day or two now to prep, because that's going to be our Sunday matchup.
Yeah, on the other hand, though, you have to mention that Nova are going to be playing again tomorrow, and they need to come back after today. One heartbreak over loss in game 1, one blowout in game 2.
Yeah.
And this is just a mental reset needed if I ever did see one.
Yeah, because if you thought we only had a couple days here, no, we have a full super week of action, you could say, at the very least here. So
Three, in fact.
Yes, 3 more days of action when it comes to our first round of playoffs. As with that, we're going to be taking a look toward our results from today. Machi were able to take the 2-1 over Alpha. Alpha, they showed signs of being able to maybe be that dark horse to upset, to save Abriz's predictions, but just wasn't going to be the case, it seems. Nova, on their hand, falling 2-0 with PSG, and like that, you get to see it take a look toward our matchups for tomorrow. Nova going to start things off up against Hong Kong Attitude, and then Alpha going up against Berjaya Dragons.
Yeah, pretty good matchups there, of course. HKA, despite being the lowest seed, they can beat anyone on a good day, they can lose to anyone on a good day, and yeah, honestly, it's up in the air as to who wins that one. However, you look at Alpha Berjaya and you think Alpha, despite falling earlier today, do look like the stronger team between those two.
Well, you got to also consider the fact that, the last time that Nova went up against Hong Kong Attitude, it was during that, tiebreaker scenario where they were able to actually find the win and able to actually get themselves into that upper bracket. So there might be a change on the horizon there for Nova and trying to avoid repeating history.
Yep.
I don't know what happened there.
And then after that day, we have a fantastic weekend with 2 best of 5s.
Yes, we have our best of 5s. Our first one going to be on Saturday with Taipei J Team taking on Machi Esports. And then, we already mentioned, Sunday, it's going to be HQ taking on PSG. Again, our big 4 battling it out on the top side of the bracket. It should be a pleasure to watch. And we hope you guys can tune on in. Be sure to follow the socials either on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and also check out Twitter. From the rest of the crew and myself, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you then.